I think a lot of people right now who are trying to get in the market, are trying to make too quick a decisions too, because the market is the way it is, right? They're, if they're competing with 6 other people, they're rushing in and maybe not, kind of thinking about, is this really the house I want? Is this the house I need, for a while? Because I've had this perspective that, the starter house may not exist anymore. So you need to think about it, because we've done some research that says people are living in their houses about 5 years longer than they anticipated, which makes sense with the environment that we're in, so it changes your time horizon. So when you're out looking for a house, you need to think about what your house, what your life looks like 10 years down the road, not just 3 years down the road. And will this house work for me then?
And that affects your mortgage choice. Yeah. I mean, because I say to people, like, a 10-year ARM is a great mortgage vehicle. Everybody says, oh, what's the rate on the 30-year fixed? Well, who's going to really be in their house, especially if it's your first house? You're not going to be in that house for 30 years. You're going to have kids. You're going to need more space. You're going to want to move out, maybe further out into the burbs, better schools, whatever. So I think the 10-year ARM, which generally has a significantly lower interest rate and is protected for 10 years, your rate will not change. You can always refinance if rates go lower. There's that 75 basis point rule that if you can save 75 basis points on your mortgage, it's worth the cost of that refinance. So, so I always say that. But I also say, look, there's no such thing as a perfect home. The house you buy, the house you grow into, the house you fix up and adore, whatever, that's your perfect home. If it's not perfect, you're going to move on anyway. So there's people who get into the bidding wars and they're like, oh my God, I have to have this house. It's the only house that'll work for us. I mean, it's great for the seller. Don't get me wrong, but you just got to be careful getting into that mindset, because you have to look at, you don't want to be house poor. And there's this thing that it's not perfect, it is perfect, but it is your single largest investment for most people. Right. And that makes it even more emotional.
Go a little different direction here. So if the average new homeowner or first-time homeowner today is nearly 40 years old, what should we be telling young people today?
Look, I think it's person to person. When we say the average age is 40, that means half are below and half are above, so there are younger people buying homes. A home is a great investment vehicle. Prices tend to generally go up, but in general, across the country, housing appreciates. It is a good investment vehicle. But it also depends on, do you want to move cities? Do you want to be mobile? Do you want to have that flexibility? Which is why people want to rent more now, because, rental apartments, the amenities are getting better. And then you do have that flexibility to move for your job, move for your family, move to, go abroad for a couple of years and come back. The world it's kind of getting smaller, but getting bigger in its opportunities. And I don't think as many people want to just settle down in the hometown as much as they did, especially young people now. They want to be mobile. And so I think, how do I counsel young people? If the math works, if you do have the money to make that investment and you could get, a pretty solid interest rate on your mortgage, and you do intend to be in the house for 5+ years, and it's a good school district, and that's where you want your kids to be when they're young and growing up. Look, for families, home ownership is a great, opportunity to build wealth. And there are a lot of people who are being knocked out of that opportunity because they simply can't afford to get in on it when they're younger. And then the rents, are higher as well. That eats up your ability to save for a down payment.
I think the point is there are lots of investment options.
Right.
And,
historically, housing has been a good one. And the other thing is you get to live in the house too. People forget that when they say, oh, am I going to make money back or whatever? You are actually living in the home and enjoying it and getting, the benefits that home offers. Again, whether it's community, school district, fixing up the home, et cetera, to make even more money when you sell.